I'm Sam. Welcome to Baseline Unknown. Baseline Unknown will be showing you the most raw and real parts of being chronically ill. We will do our best to add every trigger warning necessary, but it is possible that we could miss something. Please proceed with caution and stop engaging if certain topics begin to trigger you. Your mental and physical health is what matters most. If you are not ready for this type of content, please listen to your body and come back when you are ready. Nothing stated by Baseline Unknown or Winner to Champion will ever be medical advice. Always consult your providers and care teams before adding anything to your self-care routine. If you're new here, welcome. In this episode of Baseline Unknown, I will be doing my best to convince you that your symptoms are not your fault. And I will show you a few ways that I took back a little bit of control when my life felt like it was completely falling apart. And I will be showing you how you can stay organized as you move forward in your search for answers. All of the resources provided in this video are free and they are linked in the caption below and in my link tree and all of my bios. Don't forget to like this video, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all of my videos. I'm gonna be honest, I am so extremely tired today. I'm on the second day of my period, and because I'm so tired, I have prepared a monologue for the first half of the video because the fatigue doesn't allow me to think clearly if I'm not reading. So if things sound mechanical in the beginning, that's why. Let the monologue commence. A brief explanation of the past decade and a half. You see, there was elementary school where I was in and out of the hospital and doctor's offices with horrible headaches, viruses, and extremely painful growing pains that were all deemed to be normal. Then there was middle school, where of course it was normal for every girl to have anger issues and crippling pain after starting our menstrual cycle that required prescription pain meds and birth control at 10 years old. Oh, but wait. Then there was high school, where every month extreme suicidal ideations, behavior changes, and constant pain crept into my head and body. But don't worry, that's also normal. All girls have mood swings that make them want to kill themselves during puberty, right? Let's just throw some Prozac in there, that'll fix things. Okay, moving on. No college for me. I had convinced myself that I didn't want to go to college and I just wanted to take a year off to work. When in reality, I was unknowingly fighting my body and I was tired. Fast forward a few years, I'm working and supposed to be a thriving 20-year-old, right? Wrong. Instead, I'm passing out at work for what I'm convinced at the time is anxiety attacks, because if the doctor says it's anxiety attacks, then it must be anxiety attacks, right? Wrong again. I had been sick the whole time and unknowingly flaring myself over and over and over and over and over again. Fast forward another year where I'm being picked up from my job for 2 weeks in a row by the ambulance because of medical emergency after medical emergency with no answers. The whole time I hated myself because I was successfully convinced that it was my fault I was sick, when in reality, it was all of the things that I am now diagnosed with. But I still wouldn't be granted those diagnoses for another 4 years after my syndromes completely disabled me. None of the symptoms and pain that I've experienced is normal, and it never should have been treated as such. Okay, monologue done. First things first, a group exercise. Okay, say it with me. My symptoms are not my fault. You say it. Okay, let's do it again. My symptoms are not my fault. Okay. Now, let's internalize that because we need that in order to move forward, okay? Promise me that the next time you have a crazy amount of symptoms or you go to the ER and then you leave with the dreaded anxiety packet, you're still going to sit and you're going to take a calm moment and you're going to say, these symptoms that I'm experiencing are not my fault, okay? No matter what anybody else says. We know that now. Let's move forward. Living undiagnosed in the state of our medical systems and our society right now teaches us that we basically have to get over it and move on. We have to endure and move on. We just have to get through and it's gonna make us stronger. No, I reject that. This society teaches us that we don't have value if we aren't being productive. I believe that this ingrained mindset literally set me back years to actually finding answers, because I had convinced myself along with my doctors that I was just having anxiety, that it was just a mental problem, but it wasn't. No matter what your symptoms are, there is a reason for them. Even if you do have an anxiety disorder, that needs to be specifically diagnosed and looked at very critically and make sure that there's nothing else that is going on. Anxiety disorders are very real, but we are constantly being misdiagnosed with mental illnesses and anxiety. I don't even want to say the word anymore. Providers refuse to listen or refuse to look forward. And not all providers are this way. And I need you guys to remember, they were all taught this type of care. I believe most providers and doctors want to be there to help us, but they are only getting a certain amount of time through insurances. They only can do tests and specific things within their specialty. That's why they're sending you out to so many different specialists. Understanding that can give you a little bit of a sense of, okay, this is also not their fault that it's so hard for us to get answers. Try not to get caught up on the providers that are blatantly dismissing your concerns. There are other providers and other doctors that will listen to you. I understand that there are some people that might be isolated with the amount of resources that they have. Hopefully, the resources that I'm able to give you can help you kind of take control and understand your own self before branching out and trying to find another provider to help you. If you take one thing away from this video, I need it to be to trust your body, because you know it best. I don't care what anybody else says. You know your body. You live in it every single day. I know that living without a diagnosis is disorienting, it's demeaning, and I know that every dead end makes you want to gaslight yourself into giving up. If you can, after these types of appointments, these types of experiences, try to take a moment to get away from everything, sit, process what you have gone through, because going to the ER all the time, getting poked and prodded, it is not something that normal people experience all the time, and it does become traumatic as it happens more often. Another group exercise after these appointments that you feel discouraged from or you feel like was a traumatic experience, we're gonna sit and we're gonna say, this appointment is not the end of my search. It is one step forward for myself and a piece to the puzzle that is falling into place, okay? Say that as many times as you need to. Write it down. Make sure that you're internalizing that as well. Each appointment is a stepping stone to more answers. I hate to say, this is all on your shoulders. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep pushing. Yes, you do have to keep pushing, but in the smallest increments possible. This is not all gonna happen at once. Me getting to the point that I'm at now has been over a decade. So it's very, very small steps. Other things that I did wanna note, I always bring my husband with me to my appointments. And I understand that some people don't have that opportunity, but I think in the beginning of your journey, it's really important to have somebody with you to be an advocate, especially if you're experiencing extreme symptoms at these appointments. Unfortunately, women in general are not listened to when it comes to healthcare, but this burden falls way heavier on women of color. If you guys have somebody with you to videotape, to ask questions while you're experiencing heavy symptoms, I think going to help you move forward and hopefully get providers to hear your pleas and your issue. So another thing to note, in the beginning of my journey, I would get very, very discouraged if a diagnosis didn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to, because a lot of times I feel like we grasp onto things, our symptoms line up with it, and then a doctor says we don't have that. Ruling out a diagnosis is still a step forward and it's not a step back. Viewing these things a little bit differently can help us take a little bit more control of the way that we view ourselves and just our experience as a sick person in general. If you think there was miscommunication with a provider, weren't able to run the test, or insurance didn't cover it, I wouldn't completely throw it to the side. But if you've had one, even two doctors specifically rule something out, then take that as a good sign. Okay, it's not this. Now let's find out what it is. So now the real reason for this video, all of the resources that I made for you guys. I developed these things over the last 4 years. They've helped me stay organized, understand myself, my symptoms, my conditions better. They've helped me communicate with my doctors in a way that they can understand that I am serious about what is going on in my life and everything isn't as jumbled as it used to be. I'm also going to be doing an individual video on each one of these resources, a little bit more in depth. That way, if you don't want to use one particular one, you don't have to. It might seem overwhelming at first to have all of this information at once. Take it slow, do one thing at a time, and I'll go in order with the things that I think you should probably start with. The first thing I've made is a daily tracker where you can track your symptoms, your pain, your food, whatever you feel in your life you need to track that is important data in order to share with your providers, or just for you to understand yourself a little better. That's what you will put here. I've downloaded it onto my iPad into GoodNotes. You should be able to download it into any comparable app that you use, or you can use it as a template, write it in your journal. Just make it your own. When you download the tracker, there's a part that I have filled out to kind of give you examples of what I do. You can make it customizable to your life. This is just an outline because I know it's really hard to get started and to understand what to track, and it took me 3 years of journaling to figure out the things that I really needed to know about myself in order to portray to other people what I'm going through. When it comes to new doctor appointments, at least for me, I stress myself out for about 2 weeks beforehand, because I've either been waiting for this appointment for a year, or it's coming up too fast and I haven't prepared enough for it, or I don't know enough about the doctor, blah, blah, blah. So I made an appointment prep sheet for you guys to be able to prep questions, just the things that you want to talk to your provider about. And I do want to reiterate, at least in the United States, most providers here have a specific specialty that they focus on. So when we go into appointments and we're just spouting out all of these symptoms, it's gonna really overwhelm your provider. Those symptoms are very important. However, you specifically cater what you're writing here around what their specialty is. And this is not that I want you to completely take out everything else. There are other spaces for that. You can start smoother in the appointment instead of bouncing all over the place. I have a really bad issue with that. I have ADHD. I cannot keep things in line. This is a little bit of work up front, but I do think it helps ease some of the stress. And for me, the stress flared me way more than just sitting on the couch and writing these things down. Moving on, these other two are really more for yourself and your safety. First one is an emergency ID card. And this is something I always carry with me in my wallet. And this has my name, date of birth, insurance company on it. And you also, should have your insurance card with you and your ID with you at all times. However, it's good to have it on here because if we were to get in an accident, if I were to be separated from my husband, whatever situation, if this is on me in my wallet, a first responder can look at it and know that I have a port, I have an implanted medical device. They can see my conditions and whatever other concerns I have. They can see the medications that I'm on because I'm on several, and there are medications that could have reactions to those if a first responder didn't know I was on those medications. Some people might not be completely diagnosed yet, and if you are not diagnosed, I would put working diagnosis, this, blah, blah, blah. These little sheets, you can, again, use them as a template. If you want a smaller card, you can write them on an index card and just put tape around them, like Scotch tape or boxing tape. That way they're kind of like laminated and they'll last longer. Make sure that you are updating them if medications are changing. Last document, I know this is getting long. Medical history. And I know that might seem really, really repetitive. However, for doctor's appointments, I noticed that the times that I had a medical history and working diagnoses and my current medications, all of those things on a sheet, I had one printed out for myself and I had one printed out for the provider. They really have something to reference, and they also like to write down notes as well. So for this one, I would recommend printing one for yourself and printing one for the provider that you're going to see. And a lot of times they will ask, can I keep this? And I always say yes, because I always have an extra copy. Make sure that you put the date on it if you're giving it to them. That way, next time you see them, if a year later or whatever, it might be outdated. That way, if they have it in their files, they know that it's outdated. The medical history is really what I like to take to appointments, but it's also something I like to just update as frequently as I can for myself. That's pretty much everything for the resources that I've made for this specific video. Again, they are all linked in the caption. They are also on my link tree. All of them are free. You can download them to your phone, your iPad, your tablet, whatever. All of this stuff is also written out on my Substack. All of the links to all of the resources are also on there. There's a little bit more in-depth stuff on my Substack if you are a reader or if you just want to see everything more concise. If I forgot something, I will put it in the caption. If you want to support me, please hit the subscribe button and like this video. Share it with anyone you think needs it. Share the resources with anyone you think needs it. Do whatever you want with them. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Baseline Unknown. That's it for episode 2, Living Undiagnosed. Say it with me one more time. My symptoms are not my fault. Love you. Bye.